L'Héraclite est un voilier qui surprend toujours. Pour les enfants, c'est un bateau de pirates. Pour les marins, une jonque chinoise. Quand il jette l'ancre dans le port de Singapour, tout le monde parle du dragon des mers, tapis sur l'eau, aux 3 ailes déployées. Cet étrange voilier est devenu un bateau scientifique qui étudie les fonds sous-marins et cartographie les récifs coralliens autour de la planète. Le bateau porte en lui tout l'univers de son créateur, John Allen, jeune homme de 74 ans, scientifique, visionnaire et écrivain. Un diplôme d'ingénieur à la Harvard Business School en poche, il parcourt le monde en travaillant pour des sociétés minières. Au fur et à mesure de ses voyages, il a constitué une équipe d'explorateurs, de scientifiques qui vont l'accompagner dans ses projets. On dit que les bateaux ont une âme, et l'âme de l'Héraclite a été polie et aiguisée par 3 générations de scientifiques et de marins qui ont exploré tous les océans, d'un pôle à l'autre. L'aventure scientifique de ce bateau qui semblait une utopie il y a 30 ans se révèle indispensable aujourd'hui pour veiller à la sauvegarde des récifs coralliens, poumons des océans. Les coraux sont les forêts tropicales des mers, et ces forêts invisibles ont été négligées. Les récifs coralliens sont le lieu de naissance et de vie d'un quart des poissons de la planète. Ils nourrissent 10% de la population mondiale. L'équipe de John Allen a créé PCRF, Planetary Coral Reef Foundation, une fondation dédiée à la sauvegarde des barrières de corail. Il y a 30 ans, quand John Allen a initié cette aventure en construisant l'Héraclite, on parlait d'utopie. Et c'est dans le désert du Nouveau-Mexique que John Allen a conçu ce bateau. À la fin des années 60, les années de la Beat Generation, où tous les rêves étaient possibles.
Well, that was certainly one of our secret resources, was a mantra that we had adopted in 1967, of dream no small dreams. So actually, all around us, we can see the results of people who have realized that dreaming is not, as Westerners tend to think, merely a expression of repressed psychological contents. It's not just some alien subconscious force that's coming up from inside. But dreaming is of the very essence of the human being. So therefore, how we dream and the scale on which we dream determines our life and determines what we build with our life. Flash, I met her in India briefly. And then again in Vietnam, where she was working in a private medical hospital along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And there we decided we both had many things, common objectives in life. One of them was to have a spirit of adventures, and the other was to bring the artistic, scientific more together.
We came here after 1967 in San Francisco. This was a major time of, I guess, revolution, you would say, in this country. Things changed. All of us changed. I changed. We didn't want to live as we had before. We were just a bunch of kids from all kinds of cities. We didn't have any kind of idea of living or surviving. And it was a very wonderful life. But then it became evident that we shouldn't stay in one place, or it would be more interesting to be able to move around the planet. So this place is where the ship was conceived. Oddly enough, in the desert.
Well, the very fact that it was practically impossible, was part of the attraction, actually. But we needed to have the ship built if we were going to study biospherics, because we had reached the limit of what we could line out to do on the land. So we had to consider us a water planet. We had to go out and look at the world of water, of the ocean, of the great rivers, of the marshes, the coral reefs. But we had done a lot of work on the design of the hull, both by taking a correspondence course in it and by working with the shipping design group in Hamburg. We had no idea where we would build it. And curiously enough, we sent out 2 parties, and both parties came back and found the same place, because it was the only place in the Bay Area that you could build a ship for free, which happened to be by the 5th Street Marina in Oakland. So there we were, we had a place. So we also had to make some more money and keep morale up, and we also do theater. So I wrote 2 plays, Shakespeare in Fitton and Brecht meets Artaud.
In fact, I'll be closing down tonight.
Trip is an LSD experience.
And now, more music.
So we played those plays in San Francisco and Berkeley and at UCLA, which we got paid $2,000 for.
We were very clever about getting stuff for the boat. We didn't have a very big budget, so we got things from all over the place, mostly secondhand.
Well, human beings are the most underestimated being on the planet by the present system. Clearly, anything that any human being can do, any other human being can do. Everything that you see around, whether it's a spaceship or an Eskimo igloo or a ship, has been built by human labor and intelligence. Money is just stored up labor and intelligence. Everything has been built by this and this and this. Everything. So we had to sail the ship out, launch it, only when the tide was at the highest. So we had to build it rapidly, and that meant about 6 months. So we had to aim for that date. So to do that and put on the plays, we worked 6 days a week, sometimes a little bit on Sunday, and as much as 14 hours a day. The history of the world shows very well that if you follow a leader, you're going to go off a cliff sooner or later. But if you follow a project or work with a project, it has to adapt with the situation. A project does not have an ideology. A project does not have an ego. A project simply wants to get done. So the Heraclitus was a dream, and the dream was sea people, that humanity had never yet learned to live on the sea, learned to live on the land, that essentially we were aliens on planet water. And we had landed here by some evolutionary process, but what difference does it make? By some cosmic process, we had landed on this planet and had stayed on the islands, that is land, on which we had begun, with just a few voyages here and there. But to actually have a ship that could be the nucleus of a way of life, living with the sea, moving around, and visiting the islands, continents.
En octobre 2003, à San Francisco, l'Héraclite revient pour la première fois fêter ses 30 ans sur son lieu de naissance. Après une traversée du Pacifique de 4 mois, le voilier réunit enfin les 3 générations d'équipage pour passer à nouveau sous le pont du Golden Gate. Michel Lipitch est français. Depuis 10 ans, c'est le chef d'expédition à bord du bateau. Klaus Eberle, dit Ibis, est allemand. Ce plongeur émérite est le capitaine de l'Héraclite depuis 20 ans. Orla de Herty est irlandaise. Ingénieure chimiste, elle est responsable des missions coralliennes depuis 4 ans.
Then you can really go into the new world. She sailed in, I sailed out, and now she's sailing in. All right, Daddy, this is the moment. Do it. There's champagne down there. Nobody can tear themselves away from the deck. Ready?
Going and never gone.
Yeah, never
going
gone.
and never gone.
All the way to space. Yeah.
Do you?
Cheers.
Nobody can tear themselves away from the champagne or the view, the air. Surviving the storm.
Marc Vontillo, dit Laser, ingénieur de PCRF, s'occupe depuis plus de 20 ans de la logistique de l'Héraclite. Abigail Elling, dite Gay, biologiste de renom, diplômée de la Yale University, a mené les expéditions de l'Héraclite pendant 20 ans et dirige aujourd'hui PCRF.
Well, maybe the most astounding thing about Gay is that she has what we call in America the common touch. That is to say, it doesn't matter what the social rank is, and I've seen her deal with social ranks from royalties and prime ministers to people like me, just the ordinary person, you know, off the street or whatever. She never changes. She's always into the uniqueness of that person and into her work, into the aims that she's doing.
The support of Heraclitus is curious because it's planetary. And I have found over the years, raising money for the ship, that this is a real stumbler. When we started the Planetary Coral Reef Foundation, I found myself becoming a businesswoman, and that meant sitting behind a desk. And for me, this was at first very hard because I wanted to be out on the ship, I wanted to be underwater, I wanted to be doing all the things that from my life previous I had been the adventuresome one out there. And now I was the one raising the money and organizing the business. Most people want to give to a local project, and they have a very difficult time seeing why it's important to study coral reefs of the world. So this is part of our ongoing give and take in the whole, getting people involved with what we're doing, is the education of getting across why coral reefs are an indicator of the health of our oceans and why people should support this long-term mission and a satellite in space that would provide information daily on the health of our environment. In 2001, we signed an agreement with Massachusetts Institute of Technology to design the satellite system that will map and monitor coral reefs. We then later brought on board Scripps Institute of Oceanography and scientists from other institutions, including NASA, to handle the science operations side of the mission.
Furthermore, she really understood the biospherics. I think we've been really like that on the understanding, I think, of biospherics as an actual working operating system, you know, not just as a concept, but as a percept. Boom, boom, boom. And in fact, I would say today that she probably understands biospherics better than, well, anybody else I've ever met on the planet, better than me now, for sure. One of the secrets of adventure is to take your heart, throw it in front of you, and run to catch up with it.
I have seen grow an amazing team of individuals who love this ship and who carry that dream of sea people. So I think for me, it's a time now to pass the baton, so to speak. And people like Orla, who is taking on the science, and Captain Ibis, who is the best captain I've ever met in my life. And Michelle, who is an incredible expedition leader, and others coming behind them, that this is an opportunity for them to now take what has come to this point and then take it to the next level.
All the way! Hold back! Today we get a lot of new people from all around the world, especially a lot of people from Europe, young people, the new generation coming to join the ship and to learn about seamanship. So we have those 9-month programs where there's brand new people that never been at sea before learn all those things and interact with new cultures as we meet the people from different islands. And they start seeing the differences of their culture and the culture of the ship. The ship works with apprentice system. So there is always an apprentice to the engineer, but there is also an apprentice to the captain. Carol, who is the engineer, she is also the first mate. She right now is learning the actual piloting of the ship, and she would be in line within time to become the captain.
There's something in my brain that makes engineering seem natural. Something works. When I see things that aren't working, I'm already figuring out how to make them work. So I can't escape it, even if I want to.
The ship has sailed now over the years almost like more than 200,000 miles. 200,000 miles or 220,000 miles almost is the distance from planet Earth or planet water to the moon. Well, vivid moments for me, a vivid moment was when we sailed, for me personally, as a thing, was when we sailed past Cape Horn, you know. Cape Horn is kind of a landmark for, I think, for any sailor, and it's a very special place to kind of sail by, you know, because it's one of the most difficult places in the world to sail by, and it's just a great feeling to see like Cape Horn behind you, and you're sailing south even more. You're sailing to the Antarctic, for example. But I still consider the ship as my home. Yeah, I would say this is definitely my base, where I belong and where I live. But if I'm not on the ship, I usually travel, and I talk about the ship a lot. You know, of course, I talk about what I'm doing, and this is, yeah, definitely home. Absolutely, I think it's the Heraclitus. The ship for me is a being. It's not just a ship. It's not just like something that has, you know, no soul. The ship has soul. The ship has its own individuality. It's a being. Okay, here's Rangiroa. It's the largest atoll in the Tuamotus, and we're now about a mile off, and we're going to go through this pass here. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about our entrance here, which is Tiputa Pass. Okay, so we have to hurry up to get through the pass. Now it's slack tide to go here to the anchorage of this island. So everybody's clear on stations, and everybody knows what they're doing. So all are going to quickly tell us what our plans are for the science study. All right.
We'll be anchored here, and so we'll have easy access to both the passes. We can study the corals here on the inside, then take the passes outside and study on either side. So we'll do Vital Reef, we'll do Transects, and we will take a Fish ID dive too during our stay here.
Yay!
We go now.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
To find a spot at which to do the transects, first we establish which reef we're going to study, and then on that reef we will dive it many times to get an idea of the whole reef, and then choose the most representative areas of that reef. There are several factors in making the decision about where the coral reefs are that we study. One is that we're continuously choosing reefs that are large enough to be visible from space. So we're working in conjunction with satellite imagery, and then we send down a team of divers who can actually lay very clear transect lines to then take video along those transect lines. And this is a methodology that we use in very different points around the reef, and then come back and compare by returning to those transect points, be able to compare the video footage. From there, copies are sent to Phil Dustin's lab at the College of Charleston for students around the world to use in their coral reef studies.
Corals are dying. All around here they're dying. Not so much outside as on the inside of the lagoon, but it's not a very pretty sight. Each one you start seeing white band disease. They're starting to bleach.
There are many ways coral reefs can die, but primarily for a planetary view, which is what we're taking, what's happening worldwide with coral reefs, there's two main problems. One is global warming. A second major problem is pollution, industry or organic, sewage, which it doesn't matter where in the world it's being dumped, it'll be carried by currents throughout the planet. So we've seen in the most remotest of places, places that has no industry, no tourism, remote islands in the middle of nowhere, coral reefs are dying by pollution because the currents are carrying the pollution to them. So it's not just a local problem. It is truly a global, biospheric, planetary issue where coral reefs, our world's resources, are at stake.
Yep. Yeah.
That side, outside is not bad. There's some damage, there's some dead coral, but there's also a lot of new growth. The spot we were diving in today is not the best, but because of the conditions today, there's very reasonable waves and a lot of surge, so we chose the most suitable place to dive to do our transect. But there are more dynamic areas along that side.
Putain, on va plus pisser en paix ici ou quoi? Oh, pas normal ça, hein?
No, we'll put the information into the computer. Carol and Heather were taking coral identification, so they have information on their slates. So we'll put it into the computer now. Make a note of our GPS points where we were diving. Michelle will clean off the video camera and we put that tape away safely. So just to kind of wrap it up before lunchtime.
In 1995, when we launched our expedition to sail the world's ocean to study coral reefs, we partnered with Columbia University and Scripps Institution of Oceanography to address the world climatology questions of El Nino, of global warming for that matter. Coral reefs are like trees. They lay down rings of information. And so we were coring corals, taking a 1-inch tube right through their skeletal matter, because they lay down information on sea surface temperature and rainfall. So we were able to provide that back to the laboratories at Columbia University and Scripps to try and understand, as the ship sailed from the Red Sea through the Indian Ocean through Southeast Asia, what was happening over the century with coral reefs. In terms of industry, in terms of economic potential, coral reefs are thought to bring in annually $375 billion a year, from fisheries to tourism, extended use of coral reefs. That's an enormous amount of income a year, which without coral reefs will disappear. This is a serious potential demise. What we will lose now, we may never retrieve again.
Also in Hurricane Hugo, the Heraclitus actually went under the water, as did 4,000 other ships at that hurricane in Puerto Rico. And again, Laser was one of the 3 or 4 people that accomplished the really Herculean and extraordinary task of raising the Heraclitus from that hurricane damage.
The price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and especially on a ship. If you don't tie your ropes correctly, if you don't anchor your anchor at the right place, if you don't watch the winds, if you don't have a lookout at all times, you will go down. Guaranteed, definite. It's like a warrior all the time at the edge of sink or swim. So that is the price of freedom.
It was quite a moment because this was the ship that had just taken us around the world, and there it was, just dying. To give you an idea about time, the whole thing went really fast. Actually, it went maybe between the first crack we had and when I called actually abandoned ship. I don't know. Probably 15 minutes. But what it means, what abandoned ship means, is that you leave the ship. Well, you abandon ship to save your own life, basically. That's what it comes down to. So people jumped off. And it was actually that bad. You had already to jump on the dock actually to get off, and I was counting, and there was one guy missing. So I started running around the ship looking for that person, and I found him in the engine room. And pulled him up, and well, it kind of explained that it's probably time to get off for all of us. One of these science fiction movies when the world just had stopped and I was the only survivor and I was trying to find my way somewhere to see help, find something, find somebody to tell what happened. But somehow we got through. Somehow we got actually through to Gay. Well, I got through to Gay. And I got Gay on the phone and said, the ship just sank.
So Yeah, within 24 hours, there was a team of 5 people that flew with the DC-4 to landed as the last plane to land in Puerto Rico to rescue the ship.
Freddie was rather extraordinary in his idea because he realized in theory that the only way to possibly bring Heraclitus back up from the deep was to equally raise the entire ship ensemble. Other ships, that cranes would come in and start pulling them up by the bow or by the stern, and it was the most horrific thing to see ships literally crack like an eggshell. We realized quite quickly in this operation of raising the ship that it was probably, and certainly looking back on it, it was the most dangerous diving we had ever done.
The ship was 10 meters deep down into the water, and as you can imagine, the entire island, because of the rain and the storm, washed inside the harbor. So while we were diving, we had to protect ourselves with Vaseline and our suits on, and we had teams with hydrogen peroxide cleaning our ears and our eyes because the harbor was full of oil. There was syringes floating, battery acid. It was a terrible mess. The water was so dirty, I used my flashlight to try to look at my gauge, and I could not see my gauge. Then I took my flashlight straight onto my mask and found that some paper had got stuck onto my mask. That it was absolutely, the conditions were it was invisible. It was dark. Christine, who had flown back from Germany, immediately started unloading the books and start freezing the books. And it's a way of dry freezing. You could actually, all those wet books, the 1,000 books we have in there, many of those books were rescued together with the rest of the ship at the time of Hurricane Hugo.
To starboard. To starboard.
The latest edition of Heraclitus is Studio of the Sea. And Studio of the Sea is a full editing system underneath the waterline where we can edit films. And so as we voyage from coral reef to coral reef and from culture to culture, we can make little movies that we then will put out to our website for people to learn about coral reefs, where they are, what's happening to them, are they healthy, what's happening to the people that live with the corals, how is their livelihood dependent on the corals, what's happening with them. As we start seeing global changes, we will keep going around the world and produce with this new machine those films. Look out, goodbye, ciao, salut, au revoir.
What you making?
Here, catch.
That's gross! Now I'm gonna smell it. Fish. I have to wash my hands. Fillets?
Yeah.
For dinner?
Yeah. Caught it last night.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
How many did you catch?
Eating.
What when I was sleeping. How many did you catch?
About 20. See?
What are they?
Taia. They're good.
Emperors, no?
Yeah. La cuisine, c'est de l'alchimie. Et tous les sens sont là. L'odorat, le toucher, la vue. Ça joue beaucoup sur l'humeur du groupe aussi. Si le repas est pas bon ou est pas très, est pas correct, etc., ça va définitivement jouer sur l'humeur, sur mon humeur aussi. En tant que Français, la bonne bouffe c'est important. Et s'il y a 2-3 plats de ratés de suite, ça va barder.
Ok.
Off the ship, Michelle. Raj. Are you going now? Yeah. Yeah. Off, yeah. Yeah.
My dad is Ranonga and my mom is Simbo. Solomon Island. And I want to be with the shark, you know. I want to touch it. And old people like my granny, my great-great-grandfather, and coming generation, they worship the shark. The shark is protect us, to take care with us. So maybe it's possible they listen to me too. At the time I meet Johnny, Gay, and Laser. And we went up in the mountain, and the time my first time to meet the boat.
Et il y a eu une guerre civile. Les Solomon étaient en chamboulement, il fallait qu'on parte. Bon, il y a eu des coups de mitraillette qui étaient tirés, il y a eu plusieurs morts près de Guizot. On a dû partir très très vite, donc on est parti. Eddie est venu avec nous. On arrive avec 10 nationalités différentes sur un endroit. Admettons une petite île. L'impact de cet événement va changer tout le monde. Ça va nous changer nous et ça va changer les personnes avec qui on est en contact. On vient ici aussi apprendre. Par exemple, admettons, on arrive à Simbo. L'Héraclite va donner des informations sur l'état des coraux de Simbo.
That coral can grow this much more here. This is very cool.
Si on veut dire en échange, on va nous apprendre une danse guerrière d'anciens chasseurs de tête, le Simbo, qui a été transmise depuis peut-être 30 000 ans. Il y a un échange d'informations qui se fait.
Anyway, you see there's 8 spirals, and then the 9th moves off to transcendence. The 8 is the number of completion, and then the 9 goes off to transcendence.
And the bottom of toes to sea people. Sea people!
Of course we live on a spaceship Earth. We live on a sea spaceship Earth, which is floating out there in space. Not just floating, it's moving very fast in space. This is like our biosphere, the dome over our world. And we're all living there and traveling extremely fast through this space in our spaceship. And we are, in fact, in our spaceship already as space people. And our air and our water and our life support, the corals, the rainforests, matter a lot to our future. So for me, sea people to space people is this connection of all of my life.
The galaxy is a visible, happy hunting ground. And not for just after you're dead, but while you're alive. It's quite possible for the galaxy to be settled if they have there are other habitable planets besides Earth on other suns, other solar systems. I believe that humanity should think in terms of their projects. What are they in relation to the galaxy? The galaxy, the solar system, and our Earth.
Diving is one of the only weightless situations you can find yourself on this planet, and there's nothing better than letting forth and floating in the blue void, trying to gain an understanding of what that might be like floating in space. There's tremendous similarities in sailing with the stars. You cast the lines from a ship and you set sail from a dock, and all of a sudden you get far enough out there and there is no land anymore, and you're on this blue, blue ocean. And that will be like the cosmonauts, our future one day of setting sail into the starry black world and navigating by those stars and being on a small spaceship like this ship. You are that space explorer. There's really no difference in that regard, and always has been. And that is that link, that timeline, that line of history that will one day take people onto their spaceships and launch them into space for voyages, truly voyages.
Well, I think small boys always have a lot of ideas in their head. They're slowly squashed out by a culture that says you should only have these ideas in your head. And then gradually they're shaped into something, a simulacrum of what they were. Well, it's connected with every galaxy, it's connected with everything. Like as a boy, and also boys never think of themselves as small, by the way. They're boys. Like, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Not much problem being a small boy. But you know, there's a commandment in the Bible called don't commit adultery. That means don't become an adult. It's, you know, there was an American writer, and I think it's also a proverb in Europe, about humanity being a ship of fools. But that's for grown-ups. The Heraclitus is a ship of dreams. And many a dream has come true in the Heraclitus. Just my many kisses.